Okay, isn't this going to be a little bit too ridiculous? I'm sure at this point we all know who Crash is. The Bandicoot that not only made you had to look up what the heck a Bandicoot is, it looks like this by the way, but who's also been running around since the mid-90s on PlayStation consoles. Throughout the years after his original trilogy, he's had a whole bunch of games coming out for multiple consoles over the years, but none are truly considered to be an actual successor to the original trilogy. That is, until 2020, when Activision released Crash Bandicoot 4. It's about time. Oh, I see what they did there. Hello everybody and welcome back. My name is Argonaut, and in this video we're going to be taking a look back at Crash 4, including its development history, story, gameplay, as well as my thoughts on it, and determining if it is in fact a worthy successor to the Crash trilogy. And if you like what you see here, then feel free to click that subscribe button to keep up with me. I'd really appreciate it. And now with that little bit of shamelessness out the way, on with the video. Back in 2017, Activision had released the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, which was developed by Vicarious Visions, and it went on to become a big success, showing Activision that there was still demand for a Crash game, and put them in a position where they were open to releasing another one. Now, I can't find exact sales for the Insane Trilogy, but from what I can find, in February of 2019, it had sold a total of 10 million units, and by June of 2024, it had sold a total of 20 million units, making it the most successful Crash game to date. Also, if you happen to be thinking to yourself, at what point did Activision get the rights to Crash? I'll answer that for you right now. Originally, the rights to the original Crash trilogy in the 90s were owned by Universal Interactive, although they were in an exclusivity contract with PlayStation, and PlayStation marketed the game as a PlayStation exclusive, leading a lot of people to think that Sony were actually the ones that owned the rights. Universal then got the full rights in 2000, but were then bought out and merged with Vivendi Games, which, in 2008, they themselves were merged with Activision. But that's enough for that little business lesson. At some point, Activision's subsidiary, Toys for Bob, who developed the Spyro Reignited trilogy, approached them about making an all-original Crash game, and ultimately, Activision gave them the green light. For some reason, despite them bringing back all the renewed interest in Crash, Activision sent Vicarious Visions to work on Destiny 2, and later on Call of Duty instead. For the development of the game, using the Insane games as a point of reference, Toys for Bob actually developed everything for Crash 4 from scratch, instead of reusing assets and tweaked some of the characters like Coco, and her holding a tablet instead of a laptop in this game. And on October 2nd of 2020, Crash 4 was released for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, with the PS5 and Xbox Series X version releasing on March 12th of 2021, which had faster loading times and also ran at 4K and 60 frames. I have a crazy long history with Crash. The original Crash 2 was my very first PlayStation game way back in September 1999, when I was 8. It was my brother's hand-me-down, and it's safe to say, it was the game that made me fall in love with gaming and PlayStation to begin with, as I happily poured hours of my life into it. Before that, I only had my mother's hand-me-down NES to use. Yes, I'm old, I know, okay? When the Insane Trilogy came out, of course it hit me with nostalgia and I just had to buy it. Then, when Crash 4 was announced, I was skeptical at first since Naughty Dog wasn't behind it, but definitely interested. Although seeing the load times of the PS4 version had completely discouraged me from getting it. But seeing the gameplay still had me interested. And I mean, like, seriously, it had like 1 minute long load times. That's like something like that you would see in PS2 era. I ended up waiting until the PS5 version came out, and then, on November 21st, I bought it for myself at full price. Although, fun fact, on July of 2022, It was made available for free to all PlayStation Plus owners. For the story of the game, Toys for Bob originally weren't sure what to do, whether it be a reboot or a sequel, but eventually landed on a sequel thinking that it'd be the most profitable, and was of course targeted at the fanbase that had just bought the Insane Trilogy, and it also ignores all of the games that came after the original trilogy. The story of this game picks up where Crash 3 left off. Uka Uka uses up all of his energy and breaks Cortex and Entropy out of the past, where they've been stuck since Crash 3. Abandoning Uka Uka and going through the portal, Entropy and Cortex create a rift generator, which is capable of opening portals to different times and dimensions, and decide that they want to rule over all dimensions. Aku Aku, sensing this, urges Crash to go to the top of Insanity Island's central peak, and once there, Crash meets a quantum mask named Lonnie Lolly. Quantum masks have the ability to control time and space. Lonnie senses that there's a disturbance in the multiverse, and urges Crash and Coco to go out and find the 3 other quantum masks, so they can fix all the rifts in time and space. And with that, Crash and Coco set off on an adventure through time and space to gather the other quantum masks and put a stop to Entropy and Cortex's plans. The game has 5 characters that you can play as well, including Crash and Coco, who share the same gameplay style. So, we're just going to start there. Crash and Coco are completely switchable for any level, just like in the Insane Trilogy, and their gameplay is pretty much the same as it always was. You can run, jump on platforms, slide, double jump, do an air slam, and spin, of course. And at certain sections, Crash and Coco can also run along walls. They both can also wear the quantum masks, which grant them new abilities, like being able to temporarily stop time, being able to phase in between dimensions to step on new platforms, being able to have an unlimited spin that lets them basically super jump, and lastly, being able to reverse gravity. Oh, and do you remember Tawna? Crash's girlfriend from the first game that mysteriously vanished and got replaced by Coco in the second one? No? Well, guess what? She's back too! But not the one that you don't remember, though. This one's from an alternate dimension, and she's honestly kind of badass, instead of just being a damsel in distress like the other one. She's out to put a stop to Cortex's plans too, but she chooses to work alone instead of working with Crash and Coco, probably because...
What, did we, die or something? What? No! Nope. No, definitely not. So how are things in your dimension?
Typically, her levels will be attached to one of Crash's, and you'll play as her for the first half until you see her do something, which ends up helping out Crash off screen. Then, the game will switch you right back to Crash to finish out the level. Her gameplay includes a grappling hook, which she can use to travel across some areas, stun enemies, and break boxes that are far away. She can also jump vertically from wall to wall in a way that Crash and Coco can't do. She's not the biggest jump away from Crash and Coco's gameplay. She's basically just them without the spin and with a grappling hook. And another playable character is actually Cortex himself, who ends up joining forces with Crash after he, surprise surprise, loses to Crash about halfway through the game, and ends up getting betrayed by Entropy, who actually ends up teaming up with a female version of himself from an alternate timeline. And also comes up with a new plan to go back in time and reset the universe, so that him and his female counterpart can rule over all timelines as gods. It also turns out that the female Entropy is from Tawna's timeline and actually killed Crash and Coco from that timeline. For Cortex's gameplay, he doesn't really have a double jump like our other characters, but instead he has a ray gun, which has the ability to turn enemies themselves into platforms. He can either turn them into solid platforms or gelatinous platforms that let him jump higher. He can also dash forward in the air after a jump. And unlike with Tawna, he'll have a couple of actual levels to himself, although, just like Tawna, he does still share some of his levels with Crash and Coco, where they'll take over halfway after he accomplishes a task. Personally, I wasn't the biggest fan of Cortex, but You don't have to play too many levels with him since, spoiler alert, he ends up betraying Crash and Coco later on, so you kind of get over it. And the last playable character that we have here is Dingodile. You remember Dingodile, right? That one villain that's been around since, like, Crash 3? Well, apparently in this game, he's retired from being a villain and is trying to open up a diner. And he just kind of ends up stumbling through a dimensional portal, and his main goal is simply to just get back home to his diner. From what I've read from an interview with the creators, they said that they wanted Dingodile to be here as a chaotic neutral force that's neither good like Crash and Coco, or evil like Cortex. For his gameplay, he has a vacuum cannon that he can use to hover and travel above pits. He can also pull crates and items from far away, including TNT barrels, which he can shoot back at enemies. Now, that's it for all the playable characters and who they are, and now let's get to talking about the actual gameplay here. Now, there's two sides of the coin to this game. I'm going to talk about the first side, the standard playthrough. Starting off, you can pick between classic mode and modern mode at the beginning. Modern mode meaning that you don't get any lives, and if you die, you just resume from a checkpoint. Which kind of makes collecting Wumpa Fruit pointless now that I think about it. And you also get a classic mode, which gives you lives, and once you run out of lives, you have to start the level all over again from the beginning. Now, I highly recommend just putting that pride aside and starting with modern mode, because you will be dying a lot of times in this game. It wouldn't even be an exaggeration to say that you can end up with 30 deaths in some levels. But with a standard playthrough, you'll basically play through the levels for fun and for the story. At the end of each level, you can get 6 silver gems. 3 of them are for how much of the percentage of Wumpa Fruit that you collect, going up to 80%. Another one is for breaking all the boxes in a level. Another one is for dying less than 3 times. And the last one is for finding a hidden gem, which is hidden somewhere in the level. Whenever you collect all the hidden gems, you unlock a skin for either Crash or Coco. Now, I actually like this. You gain cosmetics based on your achievements in the game. Better than nowadays, how most companies will just charge them to you for nothing as DLC or something. You'll also later on unlock an inverted mode, which is basically a mirror mode, and some of the levels will have a new visual or some type of effect added to it. Now, these aren't necessary to beating the story, but it just adds a spin, pun intended, to the level, and more replayability to the game. They also come with 6 inverted gems that you can collect to unlock cosmetics for Crash and Coco as well, and they also move the spot of the hidden gem to somewhere else. And lastly, when going through the levels, you see videotapes that you can collect. You're only able to collect these if you can get to the tape before dying in the level. And these are called flashback tape levels, which basically shows the training that Cortex put Crash and Coco through back when he first created them. I think that this was actually a really cool thing for them to include, so now we know that they both had training before Cortex tried to make Crash the general of his army. Although, I've gotta say, these are pretty difficult. But anyway, if you're going for the standard route, then the game isn't that bad. I actually think that it's a lot of fun. And now, for the other side of the coin. The completionist side. Now, Crash 4 has been out for 5 years, and has even been available for free on PSN, but yet, it only has a 0.3% platinum rate, and there's a reason for that. I've already explained most of the things people might see and choose to do during the standard route, but some of the levels get ridiculously hard as you go further into the game, and this causes some problems. First off, the flashback tapes get placed further and further into the level as you go, making them more and more difficult to get, meaning you'll have to replay the whole level just to get back to it. Not to mention that you can earn platinum flashback relics for beating the flashbacks within a certain time limit, and near the middle, these become crazy hard. There's also something else that you can collect in levels called a perfect run relic. In order to get this, It's as it sounds. You need to perfectly get through a level while breaking all the boxes and not dying once. And on that note, I can move on to the next thing. The boxes. Now, this game goes a bit over the top when it comes to these boxes. First off, I don't think I've ever seen a Crash game with this many boxes per level before. Now, in the old Crash games, you'd have maybe about 100 boxes or less in a level. But not this one. In this one, you'll probably have about 300 boxes to collect easily. Minimum. And if that isn't bad enough, they've even gone out of their way to hide them. And by that, I mean some of the boxes will actually be hidden off-screen in a corner where the camera can't go. I mean, who did they do this for? Who? Why hide boxes from the player in an off-screen corner? It's already bad enough that you have to collect 300 plus, while some of the levels become crazy difficult to not die in, but then to hide them in off-screen corners? Lastly, another thing to collect are time trial relics, where you just have to go through the levels as fast as possible within a certain time limit without dying. After you beat the game, you do unlock a triple spin move, which gives you a boost of speed to help you get through some of the time trials a bit faster. So, to go over it one last time, just imagine this. If you want to complete everything in a level, you need to play through it once for fun with the story, and let's say you earn 4 out of the 6 silver gems, for getting all the Wumpa Fruit and finding the hidden gem. You would then need to replay the same level to search for all the boxes and make it through without dying 3 times. So, now that you got the 6 gems, and let's say you even got the flashback tape too, you would need to go back and replay the same level again for the Insane Perfect relic. And now that that's out of the way, you would need to, guess what? Replay the same level to get the time trial relic. And with even all that work out of the way, now you can finally, yep, you guessed it, replay the same level, but now in inverted mode, to get the inverted gems. So if you were to do everything perfectly on your first try, that is a minimum of 6 times that you would have to replay one level. And now you see my main issue with the game. You would have to eat, sleep, and breathe Bandicoot if you ever want to truly platinum everything in this game. And that's keeping in mind that their target demographic are probably mainly millennials who grew up with the character, who are probably at this point in their 30s and 40s, buying this game out of pure nostalgia. After Crash 4 released, it came out to a pretty decent reviews, and I'm having trouble finding actual sales for 2020, but as of April of 2024, Crash 4 has sold about 5 million copies. Toys for Bob began working on a follow-up to Crash 4, which would have featured a full-on crossover with Spyro the Dragon, but unfortunately the sales for Crash 4 weren't high enough for Activision's liking, and they cancelled the project. And had Toys for Bob, or rather whoever was left at Toys for Bob after a lot of layoffs, work on Call of Duty games until Toys for Bob became an independent studio in May of 2024. Here are my personal thoughts on Crash 4. When I first got it, I really enjoyed playing it for the story. I would run through a level once to see it, and then play it again to try to get all 6 silver gems to get the cosmetic. But as I was getting further into the game and the levels got more and more difficult, it would require more replays to get all 6 gems, which made the game less and less fun to play. So eventually I decided I would just beat the game and worry about silver gems afterwards. And by the time I beat the game, I just learned to live with seeing so many worlds and things incomplete. And at this point, I'll casually play a Crash level to try to get some silver gems when I have nothing else to do, because at the end of the day, it's still a fun platformer to play and revisit. In conclusion, Crash 4 was a really fun game, packed with a lot of characters and fun levels, as well as a story that felt and played out like a cartoon, which Crash was always aiming to do anyway. The platforming felt good, and they even added a multiplayer mode, which I didn't really play because I don't have any friends. Although, I think Toys for Bob went too far with this game at points, like, with all the boxes, and even the difficulty a little bit. I mean, look at the outfit you unlock for beating the game. They knew it was hard. Although, all that being said, I would have loved to see them get a second try with a follow-up to this game. And all in all, with all things considered, I actually would consider Crash 4 to be worthy to carry the mantle of successor to the original trilogy. Activision may have shot down a sequel for now, but who's to say that we won't hear from Crash again at some point in the future? After all, it's only a matter of time.
Crash Bandicoot, it's about time.
And that's my review of Crash 4. Did you agree with my thoughts? Did you disagree? What was your personal experience with this game? And does it earn the right to be called Crash 4 to you? Let me know in the comments section down below. I'd love to hear from you. And going forward, I will also be taking a look at the original Crash trilogy as well. It won't be my next video since I've got a couple of other projects coming up, but I will be taking a look at them before the end of the year, so you can look forward to that. And with that, I'll see you next time. Thanks so much for watching.